The screen is dark, and you hear the soft ping of a phone notification. In a quiet suburb outside Dallas, a woman taps her car app, and nothing happens. She tries again. Still nothing. Then the car's dashboard throws a message she's never seen before. Service unavailable. And in that moment, the question isn't, why won't my app open? The question is, what else just stopped working without warning? What if the features you paid for, remote start, navigation updates, safety alerts, are already on a countdown? And what if the dealership knew it was coming? Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Some car brands don't break all at once. They fade quietly. One software update at a time. One server shutdown at a time. One support page that suddenly reads, "This model is no longer eligible." And if you buy at the wrong time, you can end up owning a modern car that feels old overnight. So the real question is, if 2026 is around the corner, which brands are most at risk of losing software support? And how can you spot the warning signs before you sign anything? Before we jump in, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This channel is built for people who don't want surprises after they buy. And I want you to stay to the end, because what happens tonight isn't just a car story. It turns into a fight over paperwork, a leaked list, and a decision that could cost someone thousands unless the right person connects the dots in time. Her name is Emma Brooks. She's 32, she works long hospital shifts, and she's the kind of person who plans everything: meals, bills, weekends, even gas stops. On paper, she's the last person you'd expect to be blindsided by a car purchase. But that's the point. You don't have to be careless to get trapped. You just have to be busy. 2 weeks earlier, Emma stood under bright dealership lights in Arlington, Texas, staring at a spotless mid-size SUV from a brand called Vantage. Not a real brand name you'd recognize from billboards, but the kind that advertises hard online. Sleek tech, modern screens, connected lifestyle. The salesperson, Derek Hill, had an easy smile and a voice that made everything sound simple. "This one's perfect for you," Derek said, walking her through the features like he was narrating a movie trailer. Remote start from your phone, OTA updates, digital key, lane alerts, and the app? Super stable. Emma hesitated, because she always hesitated. "I don't want something complicated." "It's not complicated," Derek promised, tapping the screen with confidence. "It's future-proof." Future-proof. That phrase sounded safe, like a lock on a door. Emma signed. She drove off feeling grown up and relieved. For the first time in months, she thought, "I handled it. I made a smart choice." Then, on a warm Tuesday night, after a 12-hour shift, Emma sat in her driveway with a coffee gone cold, staring at her phone like it had betrayed her. The app wouldn't load. The remote start button spun in place, a little circle that never became anything else. She closed it, reopened it, restarted her phone. Then she walked out to the SUV and tried the door handle. It opened. The interior lights came on. The car still started. So why did it feel like something had already broken? Emma slid into the driver's seat and saw the message on the dash again. Connectivity services temporarily unavailable. Under it, in smaller text, some features may be limited. Some features may be limited. Emma's eyes narrowed. "Limited how?" she whispered, as if the car might answer. Across town, in a small apartment above a laundromat, a man named Jordan Lee watched a different kind of screen. Jordan wasn't a driver tonight. He was an engineer, mid-30s, tired eyes, hoodie pulled tight, living off takeout and caffeine. He worked for a contractor that handled back-end systems for multiple automakers' connected services. He wasn't famous, he wasn't rich, but he knew the one thing most people didn't. Modern cars were tied to servers the way phones were tied to networks, and servers could go dark. Jordan stared at a spreadsheet with rows of model years and service tiers. There was a column called Sunset, another called Support End
I'm
Date.
glad you're here. Come
His
inside.
cursor hovered over a note that made his
I'm
stomach
at the
turn.
library now. I
Notify
found the file in
partners
section 4B.
after Q4.
We have to be quick. I think
He'd
someone's
seen it
watching.
coming for months. Budgets shrinking, teams being reassigned,
Look at the balance
executives
here.
demanding
but what are we supposed
efficiency.
to do now?
But tonight, something new appeared. A list of 6 brands with a
Tell me,
planned
I didn't take the
phase-out
files.
schedule. Not tomorrow,
I can't
not
talk
next
right now. I
week,
think someone is
but
listening.
soon
Call
enough
me
to
back
change how people should buy. Jordan
Pay
leaned
close
back,
attention to this
exhaled
specific
slowly,
word.
and muttered
It
to no
changes
one,
the entire
they're really
agreement.
going to do it. Back in Arlington,
This is
Emma
difficult
did what
for me to
everyone
explain.
does when a product misbehaves. She searched for answers. She typed Vantage app down and connectivity services unavailable. She found threads full of confused owners, people complaining about features vanishing, maps freezing, subscriptions not renewing. But the strangest part was how the company responded. No clear statements, no apology, just vague lines like, "We are aware of intermittent service disruptions." Intermittent. Emma thought about the word future-proof again, and something sharp formed in her chest. She wasn't angry yet. She was scared. Because if the car was already intermittent 2 weeks after purchase, what would it be in 2026? The next morning, she drove back to the dealership. Derek was there. Same smile, same confident posture. But when Emma held out her phone and showed him the endless loading circle, his eyes flicked away for half a second, so quick most people wouldn't notice. Emma noticed. "Probably just an outage," Derek said lightly. "These things happen." Emma's voice stayed calm, but it had an edge now. "You said it was stable." "It is stable. I mean, usually. The car drives, right? The main functions are fine." "The main functions," Emma repeated, like she was tasting the phrase. "So the rest doesn't matter." Derek lifted his hands as if he could calm the air itself. "Hey, I'm on your side. Let me check something." He walked into the back office. Emma watched him through the glass. She saw him open a drawer, pull out a folder, and hesitate before flipping it open. And right then, she felt it, an instinct she didn't want to admit. He wasn't surprised. He was verifying how much he was allowed to say. In that same moment, 2 states away, a woman named Maya Torres recorded audio in her car outside a strip mall in Phoenix, Arizona. Maya was a consumer reporter turned independent creator, smart, skeptical, never loud without reason. Her channel wasn't about rage, it was about receipts. People sent her stories when they didn't know where else to go. Her phone buzzed with an anonymous email subject line, "Connected Services Sunset, 6 brands." No signature, just an attachment and 1 sentence. "If you care about buyers, you'll read this today." Maya stared at the message, heartbeat steady but serious. She didn't open attachments blindly. She knew better. But she also knew something else. When companies plan to quietly remove features, they count on one thing: most people being too exhausted to fight. She looked up at the windshield, then back at the email and whispered, "Okay, what are you?" Back at the dealership, Derek returned with a polite expression that didn't reach his eyes. "So," he said, "I spoke to service. They said it should resolve within a few days." Emma blinked. "A few days?" "Yeah," Derek said. "These systems are like, phones. Sometimes the network—" Emma Cunnen, still controlled. "If it doesn't come back, what happens to my warranty features, the subscription, the remote start I paid for?" Derek paused half a beat too long, and that half beat was the beginning of the real story. Because when Emma asked that question, she didn't just challenge a salesman. She brushed against a policy nobody wanted her to see, a schedule, a plan, a sunset. So here's what I want you to think about as we continue.
Yes, I have it.
If
the
your
one with the blue
car's
cover.
smart features
I'm
can
near the back.
disappear,
I think someone's
is it
watching.
still the same
need to be
car
quick.
you bought? And if a brand is about to cut
know you
software
think he's
support,
gone, but I
would
saw
they
David
warn you,
last night.
or would they let
He
you
told me
find
to
out
tell you
the
he's
hard
coming
way?
home.
In the next part, Maya opens the message that could expose everything. Jordan faces a choice that could end his career, and Emma learns there's a difference between a feature not working and a feature being quietly turned off. And the scariest part is this. The signs were there the whole time, but only if you knew where to look. Derek kept his polite face on, but his fingers fidgeted with the edge of the folder like it was hotter than it looked. Emma watched that tiny movement and felt something shift inside her. The same instinct that had helped her catch problems at the hospital before they became emergencies. People didn't fidget when they had good news. They fidgeted when they were choosing words. He guided her down a short hallway that smelled like new tires and burned coffee, into the service area where the lighting was harsher and everything sounded louder. A service manager named Rick Dalton looked up from a monitor, his name stitched on his shirt in blue thread. Rick had the posture of someone who delivered too many sorry speeches in his life. "Emma, right?" Rick asked, glancing at Derek. "What's going on?" Emma held up her phone again, the app still spinning like it was trapped in a loop. "Remote start doesn't work. The car says connectivity services are unavailable. I bought it 2 weeks ago." Rick nodded slowly, as if her words were a familiar song. "Some reports." Emma latched onto the phrase, "How many?" Rick didn't answer directly. He leaned toward the car, plugged a device into the port, and stared at his screen. "The vehicle itself is fine. This is the connected services layer. It's like the cloud part." Emma's voice stayed even. "So I'm paying for the cloud part and it can just stop?" Derek jumped in too quickly, like he couldn't stand silence. "It's temporary. It'll come back." Emma turned to him. "You said future-proof." Derek's smile tightened.
Thank you, Derek.
"It
It's a
is.
pleasure to
It's
be
just
here."
these systems." Rick cleared his throat, a subtle warning. "Let me run a status check." While Rick clicked through menus, Emma's gaze drifted around the service bay. On a wall behind the counter, there was a laminated poster titled Connected Services FAQ. The first line was in bold. "Some features require active subscription and network availability." Under it, smaller lines that looked like they were meant to be ignored. Emma stepped closer, reading. "Network availability," she repeated. "So if the network isn't available, that's allowed?" Rick kept his eyes on the screen. "It's not ideal." "That's not what I asked." Emma's tone didn't rise, but it sharpened. "Is it allowed?" Rick paused. Derek's jaw tightened. For a second, the hum of an air compressor filled the space like a heartbeat. Rick finally spoke. "There are terms." Emma looked at Derek again. "Where are those terms? Because nobody showed me anything that said your car might lose features you paid for." Derek's eyes flicked to Rick, then back to Emma. "It's in the agreement, the connected services section." Emma felt a cold clarity. So it was there. Derek tried to soften it. "It's standard language." Emma nodded once, slowly, as if she was recording the moment in her mind. "Standard? For who? For you?" Rick's device beeped.
Emma, it's
He
Maya.
leaned back. "Okay,
I know you
here's
told me
what
not
I
to call,
see.
but he's here. I
The
don't know
vehicle
what to
is
do."
trying to reach the authentication server. It's timing out." Emma stared at him. "Meaning?" Rick chose his words carefully. "Meaning the car can't validate the service right now." Emma didn't move. Validate because it's
find our way
down
through
or
this, I
because
promise.
something changed? Rick didn't answer immediately, and that hesitation was louder than any beep. Derek stepped forward, forcing a casual tone.
understand, but you
"Look,
have
we
to
can
believe
schedule
me. It
you
wasn't
for a
his
software
fault. I'll
refresh.
explain everything
Sometimes
when I
it
get there."
fixes it." Emma tilted her head. "Sometimes?" Derek kept
reserved
going.
this room 3
"And we'll
weeks ago.
submit a
You can't
ticket."
just cancel it
Emma
now.
exhaled through her
I
nose.
understand, but there's
"A
nothing I
ticket to
can do."
who?" Rick finally looked her in the eyes. "To Vantage Connected Services." Emma repeated the name as if it mattered. "Vantage Connected Services. And if they don't respond?" Derek's smile returned, thinner now. "They will." Emma watched him. "You sound like you're hoping." Across town, in that apartment above the laundromat, Jordan Lee watched his own screen with a different kind of dread. The spreadsheet was gone now, replaced by a video call full of small boxes, tired faces, corporate backgrounds, muted microphones. A manager named Priya Shah spoke like every sentence had been approved by someone higher up. "We're consolidating support for efficiency and focus. Certain legacy platforms will transition to maintenance mode." Jordan heard the phrase and felt his stomach drop. Maintenance mode was the soft way of saying, "You're on your own." One of the boxes unmuted. "Are we notifying customers?" Priya's smile was practiced. "There will be a communication plan." Jordan knew what that meant too. A communication plan usually arrived after the damage, when people were already angry and the company wanted to look surprised. Priya continued, "Partners should redirect inquiries to customer care. No speculation, no timelines, especially not externally." Jordan's fingers curled on the edge of his desk. He thought about the list he'd seen, the column labeled Sunset. He thought about owners who didn't understand why features vanished. He thought about a salesman somewhere saying future-proof, like it was nothing. His phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. "You saw the schedule. We need to talk. Don't reply from work." Jordan stared at the text. His throat went dry. The last time someone messaged him like that, it had been about layoffs. He didn't respond.
Are you sure that's
Not
the right
yet.
calibration? We can't
He
afford a
looked
mistake.
back at Priya's calm face and wondered a question that didn't have a safe answer. If he stayed quiet, how many people would get trapped? And if he spoke up, would he lose everything? In Phoenix, Maya Torres made a different decision. She didn't open the attachment right away. She drove to a public library because the Wi-Fi was stable and her instincts trusted it more than random networks. She sat at a corner table, pulled out a laptop she used only for tips, and ran the file through multiple scans. Clean. That didn't mean true, but it meant someone had taken care. When she finally opened it, her expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed. The document wasn't flashy. It was boring, corporate, and that was what made it scary. Tables, dates, platform names, terms like service deprecation, certificate renewal discontinuation, and map data freeze.
told you, Rick, I am
In
holding
one
this until
column,
the charge is clear.
brand.
Now
In
step
another,
back.
model year range. Then, in bold, support end window.
It's good to see you.
6 brands,
Thank you,
a
Derek. The setup
timeline,
here is
and a note
impressive.
near the bottom that made her sit up straight. Do not reference end of support publicly. Use service evolution. Maya whispered, "You can't be serious." She scrolled down and saw an internal distribution list, names, teams, regions, then a line that looked almost like an afterthought. Expect elevated dealer escalations after
precise about the
Q1
next
2026.
We execute
Dealer
phase one
escalations,
immediately,
meaning dealerships
quietly,
would be the
and
ones
without
facing
hesitation.
angry customers, while corporate stayed behind scripted emails. Maya leaned back, letting the weight of it settle. Then she asked herself the most important question. If this is real, why send it to me? Who benefits? Who's trying to blow this up? And who's trying to bury it? Her phone buzzed again. Different number, no caller ID. A voicemail icon appeared without the phone ringing. She hesitated, then pressed play. A man's voice, low and urgent, came through with faint office noise behind it. "Maya, you don't know me, but if you're looking at that document, don't call the brands, don't call dealers yet. They'll deny it and they'll tighten everything. Start with the vendors, start with the map providers and the authentication services. That's where the truth leaks. And one more thing, someone is watching who opens it. Be careful." The message ended. Maya stared at the screen. Her pulse stayed steady, but her mind accelerated. Watching who opens it. That meant the leak wasn't just a leak, it was a trap or a test. Back in Arlington, Emma sat in the dealership waiting area while Rick submitted a ticket. The room was quiet except for daytime TV and the occasional cough. Emma tried to focus on the screen, but her attention kept snapping back to one image. Derek's half-second hesitation before he went into the office. She took out her paperwork folder, the one she'd been too tired to read fully on purchase day. She flipped through pages until her eyes found a section labeled Connected Services Addendum. The font got smaller, the language got colder. She read a sentence twice, then a third time because she didn't want it to mean what it meant. Services may be modified, suspended, or discontinued without notice due to network changes, vendor availability, or business decisions. Business decisions. Emma's fingers tightened on the paper. She looked up at Derek across the room, laughing lightly with another salesman, relaxed like nothing was wrong. She wondered for the first time how many people had sat in that same chair with that same sinking feeling. Rick returned with a printed receipt. "Tickets in. They should respond within 72 hours." Emma took the paper without looking. "And if they say this is permanent?" Rick's face tightened. "Let's not jump to that." Emma's voice was quiet. "I'm not jumping. I'm reading." Derek slid into the seat beside her like he was trying to regain control of the story. "Emma, I get it, but the car is still a great vehicle. The core is solid." Emma lifted her hands. "No, I'm saying—" Emma cut him off, calm as a scalpel. "Did you know this could happen?" Derek blinked, and for a fraction of a second his confidence dropped. "I knew there were occasional outages." Emma didn't let him hide behind the word. "That's not what I asked. Did you know features could be discontinued for business decisions?" Derek's mouth opened, then closed. He looked past her, toward Rick, like he wanted rescue. Emma stood. "If you didn't know, you shouldn't be selling it as future-proof, and if you did know, then you sold it anyway." Derek's voice dropped. "Emma," she held up a hand, "I'm not yelling. I'm just done being vague." Emma walked out with the ticket receipt in her pocket and the addendum in her hand. Outside, the Texas sun felt too bright for the kind of problem she'd just stepped into. She sat in her SUV, started it, and for a moment everything looked normal. That was the cruelest part. The car could feel fine, while the support underneath it quietly vanished. She opened her phone again and searched something new she'd never thought to search before buying a car. Software support ending car brand. Results flooded in. Forums, rumors, half-truths. Then, buried among them, she saw a small post from a user with no profile picture. "Dealers know. Ask for the service-connected service sunset schedule." Emma stared at the sentence. Sunset schedule. The same word Jordan had seen. The same idea Maya had in her inbox. Emma whispered, "What are you hiding?" And in that moment, 3 separate lives, Emma's, Jordan's, and Maya's, started moving toward the same collision point. Because in the next part, Emma decides to test the dealership with one question they can't answer without exposing themselves. Maya begins tracing the document through the companies that actually run the services, and Jordan learns that "don't speculate externally" wasn't a suggestion, it was a warning. So here's the question to hold on to. If the real power isn't in the car, but in the servers behind it, who actually owns what you bought? Emma didn't go home after the dealership. She drove to a quiet parking lot behind a grocery store, the kind with faded lines and shopping carts that never made it back to the corral. She sat with the engine off, listening to the cooling ticks under the hood, staring at the connected services addendum like it had grown teeth while she wasn't looking. The words modified, suspended, or discontinued kept repeating in her head. If the car could lose features for business decisions, then what exactly had she bought? A vehicle or a subscription with wheels? She opened her notes app and typed one line, sunset schedule, then another, ask for it. The first person she called wasn't her mom or a friend. It was her older brother, Marcus Brooks. Because Marcus was the kind of guy who read contracts for fun and treated fine print like a sport. He answered on the third ring with background noise that sounded like a garage door. "Em?" he said. "Everything okay?" Emma's voice came out steadier than she felt. I bought a car, and I think I bought a promise that can disappear. There was a pause. Okay, Marcus said, tone shifting. Start from the beginning. As Emma explained the app outage, the dashboard message, Derek's hesitation, and the addendum flaws, Marcus didn't interrupt. He just listened, and Emma could hear the quiet anger building in his breathing. When she finished, Marcus said, "They sold you a connected package with an escape hatch." Emma stared through the windshield at nothing. "So what do I do?" "You don't argue about the app," Marcus said. "You argue about representations. What did they say to you? Future-proof isn't a feature, it's a claim." Emma swallowed. "He said it like it was a fact." "Then you get it on record," Marcus replied. "Not yelling, not threatening, just recorded. And you ask one question that forces a real answer." Emma's fingers tightened around the addendum. "What question?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "Ask them to put in writing what features are guaranteed through 2026. If they refuse, you've got your answer." Emma's pulse quickened. "They'll say they can't." "Exactly," Marcus said. "And then you ask why they marketed it as future-proof." Emma stared at the dealership ticket receipt with the 72-hour window. "If they won't write it, what's the point of the warranty?" Marcus's voice softened slightly. "That's the whole issue, Em. Warranty covers parts. Software is treated like a service. Different game." Emma looked down at the line, "business decisions," again, and felt a flare of betrayal. "So I'm supposed to just accept it?" "No," Marcus said. "You're supposed to be smarter than they expect, and you are." Across the country, Maya Torres was being smart in her own way. She didn't post, she didn't tease, she didn't run a thumbnail with red arrows and panic words. She did something quieter and more dangerous. She started calling the companies nobody talks about on car commercials. She wrote 3 names on a sticky note based on the document's wording: authentication provider, map data provider, telematics gateway. She didn't have full names yet, just categories, because in her world, categories were clues. She made one call from a prepaid phone and introduced herself like she always did: calm, professional, impossible to brush off. "I'm doing a story on connected services reliability," she said to a receptionist who sounded bored. "I need someone who can speak on service lifecycle policy." The receptionist tried to redirect her. Maya stayed polite. "I'm not asking about a single outage. I'm asking how long platforms remain supported. Who can answer that?" A long hold. Then a new voice. "This is Kevin," the man said. "I'm in vendor relations. What exactly are you asking?" Maya chose her words like she was walking across thin ice. "If an automaker ends support for older platforms, what happens on your side? Do certificates stop renewing? Does map data freeze? Do servers stop authenticating?" The silence on the other end lasted one beat too long. "We don't comment on client roadmaps," Kevin said carefully. Maya smiled, without humor. "I didn't name a client." Another beat. "Right," Kevin said. "We provide services. The automaker controls the customer communication." Maya leaned forward. "But the service still has to stop somewhere. Does it stop suddenly, or is it phased out?" "It depends." "On what?" Maya asked. Kevin's voice lowered. "It depends on whether they pay." There it was. Not a confession, not a headline, just one truth that explained everything. Connected features lived or died on renewals, contracts, vendor budgets, not on what the buyer believed. Maya didn't push too hard, yet. She simply asked, if a platform is sunset, what are the first signs a consumer would notice? Kevin hesitated. "Intermittent authentication issues," he said, almost reluctantly. "Login failures, app outages, then certain features degrade, anything that requires server validation." Maya's heart stayed steady, but her brain lit up. She thought of Emma, though she didn't know Emma yet, sitting in her driveway watching a spinning circle. She thought of how a story like this wasn't about tech, it was about trust. Maya thanked him and hung up. Then she replayed the anonymous voicemail in her head. Start with the vendors. That voice had known, which meant the voice might be close to the system, close like an engineer. In that apartment above the laundromat, Jordan Lee stared at his laptop as the video call ended. Priya's final words still rang in his ears. No timelines, no speculation, especially not externally. It wasn't just policy, it was a lid. Jordan opened a new tab and searched for his company's internal compliance rules, the ones nobody reads until they have to. He scrolled past the usual corporate warnings, confidentiality, non-disclosure, disciplinary action, until he found the part that made his throat tighten. Unauthorized external disclosure of client roadmaps may result in termination and legal action. He closed the tab like it burned. His phone buzzed again. Same unknown number, a new text. If you care about buyers, stop waiting. Meet me tomorrow, Union Station, 6 p.m. Jordan stared at the message. Union Station meant Los Angeles. That was a plane ride. That was someone serious enough to pick a public place with cameras and crowds. That was either a lifeline or a setup. He looked at his reflection in the dark laptop screen and asked himself the question he couldn't shake. If he stayed silent, would he be complicit? And if he spoke, would anyone even believe him over a brand's PR machine? Back in Texas, Emma did something she didn't usually do. She went back to the dealership the same day. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows over rows of cars. Derek saw her approach, and his smile popped into place like a mask. "Emma," he said, warm, "I was just about to call you." She held up a hand. "I need one thing." Derek's eyes flicked to the paper in her other hand. "Sure, what's up?" Emma kept her voice calm and even, like she was speaking to a patient who didn't realize the seriousness yet. "I want you to put in writing which connected features are guaranteed through 2026. Derek blinked. The smile didn't move, but his eyes did. Guaranteed through 2026? Yes. Remote start, digital key, navigation updates, safety alerts, whatever was included in what you sold me. Derek chuckled lightly, a practiced sound meant to soften the moment. That's not really how it works. Emma didn't move. Then why did you call it future-proof? Derek's jaw tightened. I meant the vehicle, the platform, the promise, Emma corrected quietly. You sold a promise. Derek leaned closer, lowering his voice like he was doing her a favor. Look, all brands have terms. It's standard. The services depend on network availability. Emma nodded once. So you can't guarantee it. Derek lifted his hands. No one can guarantee servers forever. Emma's eyes held his. Then you shouldn't sell it like you can. For a moment, Derek looked annoyed, like he wanted to call her unreasonable. But then Rick Dalton appeared from behind the service door, drawn by the tension like a magnet. "What's going on?" Rick asked. Emma turned to Rick and held up the addendum. "Is there a sunset schedule for these services?" Rick's expression barely changed, but something in his eyes did. A flicker, recognition, like she'd set a password. Derek cut in fast. "Emma, that's not..." Emma kept her gaze on Rick. "Yes or no?" Rick cleared his throat. "I can't speak to corporate roadmaps." Emma felt her heartbeat steady into something colder. "So there is." Rick didn't answer. That was the answer. Emma continued, voice still controlled. "Has anyone at this dealership received guidance about connected services changes going into 2026? Rick looked at Derek, then back at Emma. "We receive bulletins." Emma nodded. "So you receive bulletins, and I'm supposed to pretend the risk isn't real." Derek's face hardened. "Emma, you're making this bigger than it needs to be." Emma turned to him slowly. "I'm making it as big as it is." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten lawsuits. She didn't cry. She simply looked at the two men and asked the question that hung in the air like smoke. How many people have you sold future-proof to, knowing you can't promise it? Derek's lips pressed together. Rick looked away. Emma took one step back, then another, as if she'd reached the edge of what she could get from them today. But before she left, she said one more sentence, quiet and sharp enough to cut. "If I find out you knew more than you're saying, I'm not going to be the only person asking questions." She walked out, and the doors closed behind her with a soft click that sounded final. In her car, Emma's phone buzzed, a notification from an unknown account request on a social platform she rarely used. The message was short, anonymous, and chillingly specific. "They won't tell you, but I will. Do you want the list of the 6?" Emma's fingers hovered over the screen. Her breath slowed. The ticket receipt said 72 hours. The dealership said temporary. The addendum said business decisions. And now someone out there was offering a list, 6 brands, like the title of a story she hadn't meant to star in. Emma whispered to herself, "Who are you?" And somewhere in Phoenix, Maya stared at her own screen with the same question, because her inbox had just received another email, this one with a subject line that made her stomach drop. "Stop digging, or we stop you." So here's what matters before we move on. If both Emma and Maya are being pulled toward the same information, who benefits from it coming out, and who's terrified of it becoming public? And why would someone threaten the reporter over software support unless it was about something bigger? In the next part, Emma decides whether to trust the anonymous message. Maya tests the document's timeline against real vendor behavior, and Jordan books a flight he can't afford because he realizes staying home might be more dangerous than showing up. Emma sat in the driver's seat with the engine off, the cabin quiet except for the faint click of cooling metal. The anonymous message glowed on her phone like a dare. "Do you want the list of the 6?" Her thumb hovered. She could ignore it and wait for the official ticket response like a responsible adult, or she could do the thing her instincts were already begging her to do, pull the thread before someone cut it. She typed a single sentence, careful and plain. "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared instantly, like the sender had been waiting. Then, "Someone who's watched people get sold a promise. If you want the 6, you have to understand it's not the car that dies, it's the support." Emma felt her pulse steady into focus. "Prove you know anything," she typed. "What's the message on my dash?" The reply came back without hesitation. "Connectivity services temporarily unavailable. Some features may be limited." Emma's stomach tightened. She hadn't posted that anywhere. She hadn't told anyone except Marcus, Derek, and Rick, and Marcus would never message from a burner account. That left one conclusion she didn't like. The person texting her was close to the system or close to the dealership to know exactly what she was seeing. She took a breath and typed, "Why me?" The answer arrived slower this time, because you asked the right question. Sunset schedule. Most people don't. Emma stared at the words. In the reflection of the windshield, she looked like herself, but her eyes didn't feel like her eyes. They looked like someone who'd realized the rules changed and nobody bothered to announce it. Across the country, Maya Torres didn't flinch at the threat email, but she didn't ignore it either. She forwarded it to an account she kept for legal counsel, and then did what she always did when someone tried to scare her into silence. She got quieter and more precise. She opened a notebook and wrote, "Who benefits from fear?" If the document was fake, it was designed to cause panic and clicks. If it was real, the threat meant someone was actively protecting the schedule. Either way, the story wasn't "some app is down." The story was power, control, the ability to remove value from a product after purchase without showing up in person to take it back. Maya made 2 more calls. She didn't ask, "Is the document real?" because no one would answer that. She asked questions that forced technical truths. What happens when an authentication certificate isn't renewed? She asked one vendor engineer who agreed to speak off the record. The engineer's answer was blunt. Eventually, the handshake fails. Users see login issues, then server errors. It can look like an outage even when it's planned. Maya asked, "Can it be targeted by model year?" The engineer said yes, and then paused like he regretted saying it. That's how lifecycle policy works. Maya's pen stopped for a moment. Targeted, model year, planned. Those weren't conspiracy words. Those were operations words. She thanked him, hung up, and stared at the 6-brand table again. She didn't want to publish names she couldn't verify. She didn't want to punish innocent owners or ignite a comment war, but she also didn't want people getting trapped. She whispered to herself, "If I say nothing, they win. If I say too much, I'm their excuse." That was the tightrope. In Los Angeles, Jordan Lee stood in line at a budget airline counter with a backpack and an exhaustion he could taste. He hadn't slept. He'd told his contractor manager he had a family emergency, and he hated the lie because it felt like he was already becoming the kind of person he didn't trust. He checked his phone again. The unknown number sent one more message. "No work laptop, no company phone, just you. We'll be near the big clock." Jordan swallowed. Union Station was public, but public didn't mean safe. Public meant messy. Cameras, people, noise. A place where someone could disappear into a crowd and never be seen again. He boarded the plane and stared out the window as the city shrank. He tried to convince himself this was the responsible thing, but the truth was uglier. He was terrified of what would happen if he didn't go. The document had a distribution list. It had tracking warnings. Someone was watching who opened it. If someone was watching that, they might also be watching him. Back in Texas, Emma drove home and found Marcus waiting on her porch like he'd teleported there. He held 2 coffees and a folder, and his expression was the same one he wore when he'd helped a friend fight an insurance denial, half protective, half ready to burn something down. "You went back," Marcus said, not a question. Emma handed him the addendum. "They wouldn't put anything in writing. Rick dodged. Derek tried to make me feel dramatic." Marcus read the clause again, jaw tightening. "They can discontinue without notice," he said. "Yeah, that's a problem." Emma hesitated, then showed him the anonymous messages. Marcus's face went still. "Okay," he said quietly. "This is either a whistleblower or someone setting you up." Emma's voice was small for the first time in hours. "They knew my dash message." Marcus stared at the screen, then looked at her. "That means they have access to the system or they have access to you. Either way, you don't give them anything personal. No address, no VIN, nothing." Emma nodded. "They offered the list of the 6. Marcus exhaled. "And that list is exactly what people will want, which makes it dangerous." Emma rubbed her forehead. "So what do I do? Wait for the ticket like a good customer?" Marcus leaned on the porch railing, thinking. "You control the pace. Ask for proof that doesn't expose you. Something only a real insider would know, but not something that identifies you." Emma blinked. "Like what?" Marcus pointed at her phone. "Ask them for a detail about Vantage's connected service platform that you can verify publicly. A vendor name, a service tier, a code phrase, something you can cross-check without handing them your life." Emma stared at the message thread again, the 3 dots appearing and disappearing like a heartbeat. She typed, "If you're real, tell me something I can verify without giving you my info. Who runs the authentication?" The reply took longer this time. Longer meant thought or caution. Finally, it arrived. "Not the automaker, a third-party gateway. The internal nickname is Aegis. Ask any back-end engineer about Aegis and watch their face." Emma read it twice. Marcus leaned closer. "Aegis," he repeated. "That could be a breadcrumb." Emma typed again. "And the 6 brands?" Instant response. "You're not ready. You want the 6? Then you need to know what the end looks like first. It starts with outages, then feature degradation, then the quiet line. This vehicle is no longer eligible." Emma felt a chill crawl up her arms. "When?" she typed. The answer came back like a whisper. "Q1 2026 is when they expect the noise."
Look at it.
Marcus stared at the phone. "That's a timeline," he said. "Not a name, but it's a timeline." Emma looked up at her brother. "Is it enough to act?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He looked at her car in the driveway, sleek and normal in the evening light, and then he looked back at the addendum. "It's enough to investigate," he said, "and it's enough to stop trusting vague reassurance." In Phoenix, Maya's phone lit up with a new email. No threat this time, no attachment, just a sentence that made her sit straighter. If you want the truth, you need one owner who's already seeing the early signs. I can connect you. Dallas area. Maya stared at the screen, then whispered, Emma. She didn't know Emma's name yet, but the geography matched, the timing matched, the symptoms matched, and the person offering the connection sounded like the same voice that had told her to start with the vendors. Maya typed back, careful, "What's the owner's situation?" The reply came, "New purchase, app failing, dealer dodging, buyer asked about sunset schedule." Maya's fingers paused above the keyboard. She could feel the story tightening like a knot, pulling strangers into the same gravity.
Let's talk about the sunset schedule,
At the same
Rick. Where did
moment,
you hide it?
Jordan stepped off the train platform at Union Station and found the big clock.
Look closely
People
at page
flowed
3.
around him, laughing,
changes
rushing,
everything for
living
the
normal
appeal.
lives.
Just listen to
Jordan
me,
stood
okay?
still, scanning faces, trying to decide who could ruin him with one sentence. Then he saw her. A woman in her late 20s, baseball cap pulled low, with a tote bag and a posture that said she'd been waiting longer than she wanted to admit. She didn't
I
approach him
appreciate the
right
update,
away.
but
She
my
just
concern is
watched
the
him,
timeline
like she
you've
was
outlined
confirming he came alone.
Seems overly aggressive.
Jordan's phone buzzed one more time. That's her. Don't say names. Jordan looked up again. The woman nodded slightly and walked toward him, slow, controlled, like this was a handoff in a crime movie, except the weapon wasn't a gun, it was information. She stopped 2 feet away and spoke without greeting. "You saw the 6 brand schedule." Jordan swallowed. "Who are you?" She glanced around, then met his eyes. "Someone who's tired of watching them sell software like it's forever. And I need you to answer one question before I give you anything." Jordan's throat tightened. "What question?" She leaned in just enough that he could hear her over the station noise. "If I tell you which brands are losing support, will you help prove it or will you run?" Jordan stared at her, and the only honest answer was the one he couldn't say out loud. He didn't know. Because in that moment he understood the real risk. It wasn't just getting fired, it was getting labeled. The moment the story went public,
Sunset schedule.
people would choose sides, and the truth would become a battlefield. And back in Texas, Emma's phone lit up again, this time with a call from a number she didn't recognize. She almost ignored it. Then she saw the voicemail transcription preview as it appeared. "Emma Brooks, this is Maya Torres. I think your car problem is part of something bigger. If you're willing to talk, I can protect you. Please call me back." Emma's breath caught. She looked at Marcus, then at her car, then at the addendum. The list of 6 was no longer just a rumor in a text thread. It was a story moving toward daylight. And the question that mattered now wasn't, is the app down? It was, who gets to decide what your car becomes after you buy it? And why are they so desperate to keep that decision quiet? In the next part, Emma decides whether to trust Maya. Jordan hears the 6 brand names for the first time, and Maya realizes the threat wasn't meant to stop her from publishing. It was meant to rush her into publishing the wrong way. Emma didn't call Maya back right away. She sat at her kitchen table with the lights off, the glow from her phone painting her face in a pale blue. Marcus stood by the sink, arms crossed, watching her like she was about to walk into traffic.
Come inside.
"She said she can protect you,"
I'm at the
Emma
library
murmured,
now. I found
replaying
the
the
file in section
voicemail in her
4B.
head.
We have
How
to
does
be quick. I
anyone
think someone
protect
is watching.
anyone from a company? Marcus kept his voice
keep
low.
avoiding this. Look
She
at the
can
balance
protect
here.
you
I
from
know,
being
but what are we
alone.
supposed to do
That
now?
matters. Emma stared at the connected services addendum again.
telling you, I didn't
The
take the
words
files.
felt less like legal language
can't talk
and
right
more
now
like a
since someone's
trap door.
listening. Call me back
She
later.
thought about Derek saying future-proof with
Pay
that
close
easy
attention
smile,
to this
as if the
specific
phrase
word.
had weight.
It changes
Now
the
it felt
entire
like
agreement.
air. Her phone buzzed with a new message from
This
the
is
anonymous
difficult, but I need to
sender.
explain.
No greeting, just a question that cut straight through the silence. "Did a reporter contact you yet?" Emma's stomach tightened. She looked at Marcus, then typed carefully. "How would you know that?" The reply came fast, because they're trying to control the narrative. And because you're not the only new buyer getting the temporary outage script. Emma's fingers hovered. "Who is they?" she typed. The dots appeared, lingered, then vanished. No answer. Instead, if you talk to her, don't mention me. Ask her one thing, why she got the document. That's the key. Emma set the phone down like it was warm. Marcus leaned forward. What did they say? They knew a reporter would contact me, Emma said quietly. Marcus's face hardened. Okay, that's not random. That's surveillance-level awareness. Emma swallowed. Or bluff. Maybe, Marcus said, but you don't test a bluff by walking in blind. Emma stared at the dark window over the sink. Outside, the neighborhood looked normal. Porch lights, a dog barking 2 houses down, someone's TV flickering behind curtains. She felt like she was the only person awake inside a story nobody else knew they were in. She picked up her phone and finally called Maya back. Maya answered on the first ring, like she'd been holding it. Her voice was calm, not dramatic. Emma? Thank you for calling. Are you somewhere safe and private? Emma blinked. Safe, yes. Private? I think so. Maya didn't push. Okay, before we go further, I want you to know something. You don't owe me anything. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, you hang up. No questions. Marcus raised his eyebrows slightly, impressed despite himself. Emma's voice stayed cautious. How did you get my name? Maya didn't dodge. Someone reached out and described your situation. New purchase, app failing, dealer dodging. You asked about a sunset schedule. They didn't give me your address or VIN, just enough for me to realize you might be seeing early signs of what I'm investigating. Emma's stomach tightened, once heavy. So they're connecting us? Yes, Maya said, and that's why I'm careful. Sometimes leaks are meant to help consumers. Sometimes they're meant to weaponize confusion. I'm trying to make sure this doesn't become a panic machine. Emma's grip tightened on the phone. What is it you think is happening? Maya paused, choosing her words with the precision of someone who'd been burned before. I think some automakers are planning to reduce or end software-backed services for certain platforms and model year ranges. That doesn't mean the car stops driving, but it can mean features you paid for degrade, stop updating, or stop authenticating. And if dealers keep selling those cars with future-proof language, consumers are the ones holding the bag. Emma's voice came out sharper than she intended. Do you have proof? Maya didn't flinch. I have a document that appears internal. I have vendor confirmations that certain end behaviors look like outages first, and I have threats trying to stop me from verifying it properly. Emma's throat grew dry. Threats? Yes, Maya said quietly. Emails, pressure, the kind meant to rush me into making mistakes. Marcus mouthed, "Wow," silently. Emma tried to keep her breathing steady. What do you want from me? Maya's answer was gentle, not hungry. I want your experience on record, if you're willing. Not your personal details, not your VIN, just the sequence. What you were told at purchase, what you're seeing now, and what the dealer said when you asked for clarity. The goal isn't to name and shame you, it's to show a pattern. Emma stared down at the ticket receipt. If I talk, will it make my warranty worse? Will they retaliate? Maya's voice stayed level. I can't promise companies don't retaliate, but I can promise I won't publish identifying details without your consent. And I can recommend steps to protect yourself. Keep records, get communication in writing, don't post your VIN online, don't share your address with anonymous sources. Emma felt a flicker of relief that Maya said exactly what Marcus said. That consistency mattered. Emma asked the question the anonymous sender told her to ask. Why did you get the document?
I told you I can't do
Maya
that. It's too
paused a
late now.
fraction too long.
Okay, fine.
Then she answered honestly.
Yes, I
Because
suppose we can
someone
try
wants
that.
the truth out, but I don't know their motive, and that's what scares me. Emma's skin prickled. So the leak could be a trap. It could be, Maya said, or it could be a conscience. I'm treating it like both until I can prove otherwise. Emma glanced at Marcus, who nodded slowly as if he'd expected that answer. Maya continued, "Emma, can I ask, when you confronted the dealership, did anyone seem not surprised?" Emma's mind snapped back to Rick's flicker of recognition when she said sunset schedule. "Yes," she said softly, "the service manager. He looked like I'd said something I wasn't supposed to know." Maya exhaled. "That's important." Emma's voice lowered. "What happens in 2026? Maya didn't oversell it. If the schedule is accurate, Q1 is when consumers start noticing more consistently, not because the car collapses overnight, but because the quiet phase-out becomes loud, and brands will call it service evolution or platform modernization, while buyers call it losing what they paid for. Emma stared at the dark kitchen tile. "And the 6 brands?"
Hey.
Maya didn't bite.
Alright, I got the
"I'm not
folder.
naming anyone on
Here's
a
your
call,
coffee.
and not even naming anyone on camera until I can
the showroom,
verify
Emma.
with
We
multiple
appreciate your
sources.
business.
But I
Thank
will
you,
tell
Derek.
you
It's
the
a pleasure to be
category of
here.
risk. Brands that depend heavily on app-based
the initial
features to
reports
feel
look
premium,
concerning,
brands
but if you
that
look
have
closer at
changed
the adjusted
ownership or
figures,
strategy
we are
recently,
perfectly aligned
and
with the
brands that have
targets.
fragmented
This is the clause
platforms
we
across
discussed,
model
right
years."
here.
Emma swallowed.
Changes everything.
It sounded
I
like
understand,
Vantage,
Marcus.
even though Vantage was already feeling like a warning sign in her driveway. When Emma hung up, she didn't feel comforted. She felt recruited. Not by Maya, who sounded careful and ethical, but by the situation itself. Once you knew the floor might drop, you couldn't pretend it was solid. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her dealership ticket update, a generic email with a subject line that felt insulting. "We're working on it." The body said almost nothing, just, "Connectivity services are currently experiencing intermittent disruptions. Please try again later." Intermittent again. Emma's jaw tightened. Marcus leaned over her shoulder and read it, then laughed once, sharp and humorless. "That's not a response," he said. "That's a delay." Emma felt something inside her settle into a decision. She picked up her keys. Marcus blinked. "Where are you going?" Emma stood, her voice calm. "To get them on record." "Tonight?" Marcus said. "It's late." "That's when people slip," Emma replied. "During the day, they have scripts. At night, they want to go home." Marcus stared at her like he was seeing
Emma,
her
it's
differently.
Maya.
"You're serious?"
I know you told me
Emma
not to
nodded.
call, but he's here. I
"I'm
don't know
done
what to
being
do.
patient." They drove back to the dealership, the lot mostly empty, the bright lights making the rows of cars look like staged props. Inside, a few salespeople lingered, talking quietly. Derek
It's
wasn't
okay.
there, but
We'll find
Rick
a way through
was,
this, I
finishing
promise.
paperwork behind the service counter. When Emma walked up, Rick's shoulders stiffened. "Emma," he said cautiously, "we're still waiting on corporate."
I understand, but
Emma
you
didn't
have to
sit.
believe
She
me.
didn't
It wasn't
smile.
his fault.
She
I'll
placed her
explain
phone on the
everything when we get
counter,
there.
face up, screen dark but ready. "I'm recording," she
I
said,
reserved this
"for my
room
own
3
records."
weeks ago. You can't
Rick's
just cancel
eyes
it now.
widened slightly.
Ma'am, I understand,
"I'm
but
not
there's nothing I
comfortable
can
with
do."
that." Emma's voice stayed polite. "Then speak carefully. I'm going to ask you one question. If you don't know, say you don't know. If you can't answer, say you can't answer." Rick swallowed. "Okay." Emma leaned in. "Are there any known upcoming changes to connected services eligibility for this brand's vehicles in 2026? Rick stared at her. His hand stayed still for a moment. Then he reached for a pen and tapped it once against the desk, a tiny nervous rhythm. "I can't discuss corporate planning," he said. Emma didn't react. "So there is corporate planning." Rick's eyes flicked toward the back office door. He lowered his voice. "Emma, I'm trying to help you." "Then help me," Emma said quietly.
understand, but the
"If you were
policy's
my
very clear.
brother,
There are no
would you
exceptions
tell me to
after
keep
hours.
this car?"
Earlier, they assured me
Rick's
it would be
mouth
fine. You have
opened,
to.
then
Sir, I'm
closed.
afraid I cannot
For a
help you.
second, his face wasn't a service manager's face. It was a man trapped between a paycheck and a conscience. He finally spoke, barely above a whisper. "I tell you to get everything in writing." Emma nodded slowly. "And can you give me anything in writing?"
It wasn't an
Rick's
accident,
gaze
Emma.
dropped. "No."
It's deliberate.
Emma stared at him, then picked up her phone. "Thank you," she said, and
Understand
her
this.
calmness made
We
the
proceed
moment heavier
exactly as
than
planned,
anger ever
or we
could.
don't proceed at all.
As she turned to leave,
margin for
Rick
error
said one
is
more
0.
sentence, so quiet it almost disappeared under the fluorescent hum. Ask for the bulletin number. Emma stopped. What? Rick's eyes didn't meet hers. There are service bulletins about connectivity. Ask for the bulletin number. If they refuse, you'll know. Emma's heart pounded once. She turned back. Which bulletin? Rick shook his head. I can't. Emma didn't push. She didn't want to force him into a corner that could make him shut down completely. She simply nodded, thanked him again, and left.
Are you sure that's the
Outside,
right calibration?
Marcus
We can't afford
exhaled a
mistake.
long breath he'd been holding.
Just give me a second.
That was something. Emma stared at the dealership doors. He knows. Marcus nodded. He knows enough to be afraid. Emma's phone buzzed as they reached the car. A new message from the anonymous sender, like they'd been watching the whole time. Did you ask for the bulletin number? Emma's blood went cold. She didn't reply. She just stared at the screen, feeling the reality snap into place. This wasn't just a leak, it was proximity. And across the country, in Union Station, Jordan stood near the big clock, while the woman in the baseball cap slid a folded paper into his hand, without looking like she did it. Don't open it here, she said, voice flat. Memorize the 6, then burn it. Jordan's fingers tightened around the paper. Why me? He whispered. The woman finally met his eyes. Because you know where the bodies are buried. Not real bodies, digital ones. Contracts, renewals, vendor cutoffs. And once buyers realize what maintenance mode means, someone has to explain it in plain English. Jordan's throat tightened. What if I don't?
Thank you,
The
Derek.
woman's gaze
Setup
was
here is
steady.
impressive.
Then they keep selling future-proof until 2026 makes liars out of all of them. Jordan stared at the paper in his hand, heart hammering, because he knew that whatever was written there would change everything. Names would turn rumors into targets, and once names existed, someone would try to silence whoever spoke them first. Back in Texas, Emma stared at her own phone, at the anonymous sender who somehow always seemed one step ahead, and she asked herself the most dangerous question yet. What if this person wasn't trying to help her? What if they were steering her? In the next part, Emma tests the bulletin number clue and discovers the dealership has a second script for customers who ask the right questions. Maya sets a trap to verify one brand on the list without publishing it, and Jordan opens the paper and realizes the 6 aren't just brands, they're the first dominoes in a much bigger shutdown. And that's where we'll leave it for now, because at this point, it's not just about an app being temporarily unavailable. Emma has a clue that dealerships don't want to put in writing. Maya has proof that the outage pattern can be planned, and Jordan is holding a list that could turn a quiet phase-out into a public storm. The question isn't if software support can vanish, it's who knew and how long they've been selling cars like nothing was changing. If you made it this far, thank you. Seriously, you're the kind of viewer who doesn't just watch, you thinks ahead, and that's exactly what Warranty Radar is for. If this helped you even a little, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next video is where the story gets real. Emma goes back for the bulletin number. Maya sets a verification trap that forces a brand to show its hand, and Jordan finally reveals the 6, but not before we learn what maintenance mode actually does to the features you paid for. Stay ready, because in the next episode, a simple question at a dealership counter changes everything.